All right, so picture this. You're in Strasbourg, France.
Mm-hmm.
In the year 1518, the streets are bustling.
Mm-hmm.
It's summer. The air is thick with, the scent of baking bread.
Yeah.
And, oh, wait a second. Is that music?
Music.
And why are people dancing?
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, really dancing.
Oh, wow.
Like, their lives depend on it.
Okay.
This is the strange and tragic tale of the dancing plague.
The dancing play.
A historical mystery that's both fascinating and a little bit unsettling.
Yeah, it's quite a story. What's captivating about this is that it wasn't just, a few people kind of letting loose.
Right.
It was hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. Seized by this, uncontrollable urge to dance.
To dance.
For days, weeks, even months.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a stack of sources here, eyewitness accounts, historical records, scientific theories. And, our mission is to unpack this bizarre phenomenon.
Okay, sounds good.
What drove these people to dance themselves to exhaustion?
What?
And in some cases, even death?
Yeah.
Was it a medical mystery?
Oh.
A social phenomenon?
Interesting.
And or something even stranger?
Well, to understand the dancing plague, I think you have to understand the world that it emerged from.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So Strasbourg in 1518 wasn't exactly a party town.
Right.
It was actually a city gripped by hardship.
Oh.
I think recent syphilis outbreaks.
Wow.
The lingering threat of the bubonic plague.
Oh, my God.
Harsh winters that decimated crops. And simmering social unrest.
So basically a recipe for stress, not a dance party.
Exactly. And that backdrop of hardship and fear is crucial. It sets the stage for what some historians believe was a case of mass psychogenic illness.
Okay. Mass psychogenic illness.
Yeah. It's a phenomenon where physical symptoms spread through a population without a clear organic cause.
So you're saying these people weren't physically ill,
Not in the traditional sense.
but their minds were influencing their bodies.
Exactly. Precisely. Think of it like this. Imagine a community under immense pressure,
Yeah.
desperate for an outlet for their anxieties.
I see.
And suddenly one person starts dancing uncontrollably.
Okay.
Maybe it's a way to release tension, to find a moment of escape. Or perhaps it's, a subconscious cry for help.
And this behavior in a community already primed for a collective outburst becomes contagious.
Exactly. It's like a social domino effect, fueled by a shared sense of fear, desperation, and the very human need to belong.
Okay. Our sources actually pinpoint a specific individual as the first dancer,
Interesting.
a woman named Frau Troffe.
Frau Troffe.
Imagine a scorching July day,
Uh,
and this woman just starts dancing in the street,
just starts dancing.
seemingly out of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
And she doesn't stop.
Doesn't stop.
Not for hours, not for days.
That's wild. Her story is both captivating and tragic.
Right.
Imagine her husband begging her to stop,
Yeah.
witnessing her descent into this frenzied state, and then, the truly heartbreaking detail.
What's up?
She kept dancing until she collapsed from exhaustion.
It's a powerful image.
Yeah.
A stark reminder of the grip that this phenomenon had on its victims.
Mm-hmm.
And what's even more disturbing is that Frau Troffe's solo act quickly turned into a full-blown dance craze.
A dance craze.
Yeah.
Oh.
Within weeks, the sources describe, dozens.
Dozens.
Then hundreds of people joining in.
Hundreds.
Swept up in this wave of uncontrollable dancing. Imagine the streets of Strasbourg transformed into a scene of, both spectacle and suffering.
Wow, yeah. That's hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine the chaos,
Yeah.
the fear, the sheer bewilderment of those who witnessed this unfolding. What did the authorities do?
Right? What did they do?
Was there any attempt to stop the dancing?
Well, their initial response was shaped by the prevailing beliefs of the time. They saw it as a curse from Saint Vitus.
Saint Vitus.
Yeah.
A saint.
A saint associated with both healing and, ironically, with uncontrollable dancing.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah,
So instead of medical intervention, they turned to religious rituals?
precisely. They brought the afflicted to shrines dedicated to Saint Vitus, hoping for a miraculous cure. But, the plague, if we can call it that, continued to spread.
And then the story takes an even stranger turn, right?
Yeah.
Our sources mention a cure that involved more dancing.
Yes, you read that right. The physicians of the time were convinced that the plague was caused by overheated blood.
Overheated blood.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and they decided that the best remedy was to encourage more dancing.
You can't make this stuff up.
I know, it's wild.
So instead of trying to stop the dancing, They actually set up dedicated dancing areas,
Uh-huh.
hired musicians,
Yeah.
and even encouraged healthy people to join in.
It's a testament to how deeply their understanding of the human body was intertwined with their cultural beliefs.
Wow.
They thought they were helping, but in reality, they were likely fueling the very phenomenon that they were trying to stop.
And of course, as we know, encouraging more dancing didn't exactly put an end to the plague. What happened next? Did they eventually realize their mistake?
Well, it's unclear what definitively stopped the dancing plague. Some accounts suggest that, after weeks of this intense dancing, the afflicted were simply too exhausted to continue.
Oh, I see. Just wore themselves out.
Basically. Others point to a shift in, the authorities' response.
Okay.
They eventually banned public dancing, returned to religious rituals, and organized pilgrimages to, appease St. Vitus.
So a combination of exhaustion and a renewed focus on, well, religious appeasement.
Yeah,
It seems like a desperate attempt to grasp at any solution.
exactly. And whether it was divine intervention or physical exhaustion or simply a shift in the collective psyche, the dancing eventually subsided.
Okay,
But the mystery remained.
of course.
What had caused this bizarre and deadly phenomenon?
Let's dive into some of the theories. Our sources mention a rather colorful character named Paracelsus,
Paracelsus, okay.
a physician and alchemist who had his own take on the dancing plague.
Yeah, Paracelsus was known for his unconventional ideas.
Right.
He visited Strasbourg years after the dancing plague, and, he attributed it to voluptuous urges
Voluptuous urges.
and idle and disloyal wives.
Oh, wow. So essentially he blamed it on women and their supposed moral failings.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sounds like a classic case of blaming the victim.
It's certainly a perspective that reflects the misogyny of the time. It's important to remember that historical accounts are often colored by the biases and prejudices of their authors.
So we can safely dismiss Paracelsus's theory. What about other explanations? Our sources mention ergot poisoning as a possibility.
Right, ergot poisoning, that's caused by a fungus that grows on rye, a staple grain in the region. Ingesting ergot can lead to hallucinations, convulsions, and even death. On the surface, it seems like a plausible explanation for the uncontrollable dancing.
But there are some holes in that theory.
Yeah. While ergot poisoning can cause those neurological symptoms, it typically also leads to gangrene and a very painful death,
Right.
which, don't seem to be prevalent in accounts of the dancing plague.
So ergot poisoning is unlikely, but not entirely impossible. What about the theory of mass psychogenic illness?
Yeah.
The idea that the dancing was a physical manifestation of psychological stress.
That's the theory that many modern experts find, most compelling. Remember that Strasbourg was a city on edge, facing multiple threats to their well-being.
Right, right.
This chronic stress, coupled with a pre-existing belief in dancing curses and the highly visible spectacle of others dancing uncontrollably, created the, perfect storm for mass psychogenic illness to take hold.
It's almost like a feedback loop. One person's anxiety feeding another's until it reaches a tipping point and explodes into this collective frenzy.
Exactly. And the more people danced, the more it reinforced the belief that a supernatural force was at work, further fueling the cycle of fear and contagion.
It's a chilling reminder of how powerful the mind-body connection can be,
Yeah.
especially when amplified by social pressure and shared beliefs.
And what's fascinating is that mass psychogenic illness isn't just a historical curiosity. We've seen similar outbreaks in more recent times.
Like the Tanganyika laughter epidemic in 1962?
Precisely. It started with 3 schoolgirls in Tanzania who began laughing uncontrollably. The laughter spread like wildfire, eventually affecting hundreds of students and forcing multiple schools to close.
Wow.
There was no known physical cause, just a contagious outburst of laughter fueled by stress, social pressure, and perhaps a bit of teenage boredom.
It's both humorous and unsettling to think about. It's as if our emotions, like laughter or fear, can be transmitted from person to person, almost like a virus.
And it highlights the importance of understanding the social and psychological factors that can contribute to these outbreaks.
Yeah.
Whether it's a dancing plague in the 16th century or a laughter epidemic in the 20th, these events remind us that our minds and bodies are deeply interconnected, and our social environments can have a profound impact on our well-being.
It's a sobering thought. But before we spiral into existential dread, let's take a moment to consider what we can learn from these historical and modern examples of mass psychogenic illness. What insights can we apply to our own lives? especially in a world that often feels as stressful and uncertain as 16th century Strasbourg?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Okay, so we've explored this dancing plague, this bizarre historical event.
Yeah.
Talked about ergot poisoning,
Uh-huh.
religious fervor,
Right?
and even mass psychogenic illness.
Yeah, it's quite a mix.
It is. But what does it all mean for us today?
That's a good question.
Are we really at risk of suddenly bursting into a frenzy of uncontrollable dancing?
Well, maybe not dancing specifically, but I think the dancing plague does offer some, valuable lessons about the power of social influence
Okay.
and the importance of mental well-being.
Right.
And those lessons are just as relevant today as they were back in 1518.
Okay, I'm listening. What kind of lessons are we talking about?
First and foremost, it highlights the importance of stress management.
Stress management.
Yeah. You know those folks in Strasbourg, they were dealing with some serious hardship.
Right. Disease, famine, social unrest.
Exactly. It's no wonder they were primed for a collective breakdown.
So you're saying that taking care of our mental health is key to avoiding a modern-day dancing plague.
Exactly. We might not be facing the bubonic plague today, but, we have our own sources of stress.
Right.
Work deadlines, financial worries, the, constant pressure of the 24/7 news cycle.
Oh, yeah.
It's crucial to find healthy ways to cope with that stress.
Yeah.
Whether it's exercise or meditation, spending time in nature,
Yeah.
or even just, talking to a friend or a therapist.
It's a good reminder that self-care isn't selfish.
Yeah,
It's essential.
it is.
But what about the social contagion aspect?
Yeah.
Can we really catch anxiety from others?
Well, not literally catch it like a cold, but our emotions and behaviors are definitely influenced by those around us.
Right.
Think about it. You're more likely to laugh if you're surrounded by laughing people,
Yeah.
or feel anxious in a crowd of anxious people.
That makes sense. So how do we guard against that kind of negative social contagion, especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with bad news and, alarming headlines?
It's about being mindful of what we consume, both
Yeah.
online and offline. Limit your exposure to negativity and sensationalism. Seek out positive and uplifting content.
Okay.
And remember that social media often presents a distorted view of reality.
Right.
Don't compare your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
That's good advice for all of us.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get sucked into the negativity vortex, especially online. But the dancing plague also highlights the positive side of social connection, right? We talked about how that sense of community might have actually helped bring the dancing to an end.
Exactly. We humans are social creatures. We need connection, belonging, and a sense of, shared purpose.
Right.
And when those needs are met, we're more resilient, more able to cope with stress and adversity.
So the takeaway here is to cultivate strong social connections, build supportive communities, and reach out for help when we need it.
Absolutely. And remember, the dancing plague eventually ended.
You did.
People found ways to cope, to heal, to move forward. And we have that same capacity for resilience within us.
Yeah.
By learning from the past, by understanding the interplay between, our minds, our bodies, our social environments, we can build a future where we're less likely to, dance ourselves into oblivion.
Well said. It's been a fascinating deep dive into the dancing plague.
Yeah.
A historical mystery that reminds us of the enduring power of the human mind and the importance of taking care of ourselves and each other. And as we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with this. Remember to dance.
Oh.
But dance for joy, not for desperation. Find your own rhythm, your own way to move through the world with resilience and grace.